The police say that he was armed with everything from a MAC-10 machine gun to an Uzi submachine gun and was apparently out for revenge for his firing from the post office.
It was like a game that really happened. We never thought he could, but it was just speculation.
Stake of the limit, AK 47 Rifle software games, Blunt of Mayhem could be Blunt of Mayhem to the software programmers of Blunt of Mayhem.
The post office put him in the state.
Blunt of Mayhem.
I'll call them to
I regret nothing.
It really happened. We never thought he could, but it was just
On August 20th, 1986, disgruntled mailman Patrick Sherrill entered his former workplace, carrying a mail bag with 3 firearms. As an act of revenge against his previous workplace reprimands, he shot and killed his supervisors and began murdering other staff, before turning the gun to himself. The spree lasted 15 minutes, and it left 14 innocent lives lost. This is one of many similar incidents that occurred around this period. More and more postal workers began showing up to their respective post offices and went on violent killing sprees. The increasing incidents led to many a case study, with Carl Vick's Violence at Work tied to self-esteem, coining the term going postal to describe the mental break in these killers that led to their violent actions. Fast forward a few years, and in the meantime, video games were in their infancy. What once looked like a bar graph began morphing into meaningful experiences with improving sound, color, and visuals. With that came the increased capacity to create some rather unsavory things. In 1994, a lawsuit was presented against the unmarked sale of violent video games. Some of the offenders were Mortal Kombat and Doom for depictions of blood and gore, and Night Trap for having the audacity to include scantily clad women in their underwear, but not in a suggestively revealing way. It's not like sexual at all. They're just like going to sleep. Like, in Night Trap's defense, your kid's gonna get friend zoned sooner or later. I mean, if your kid found this attractive, they were already set in the course of becoming a violent sex criminal anyways. What the fuck? Eventually, the case was settled. A number of large retailers would begin rating their games per the game's contents, or else the government would start regulating the sale of games themselves. Blood and titties are neat and all, but have you tried shooting a grandma in the supermarket? In came Postal with his 1993 E3 debut. What's better than shooting demons? Well, shooting the innocent, of course! While the future product only required murdering a set number of authorities, it primarily sold itself in the player's ability to murder innocent bystanders as well. As a result, the game was mired in controversy from the start. Many morally righteous people in journalism and in the government began picking up the game and began touting it as depraved and senseless. However, instead of damaging the game's sales, the outrage had the adverse effect of building an aura of mystique and fear around the game, and fear sells. When folks hear terrible things about an experience, some have the morbid curiosity to try it out themselves, and the game attracted many "screw you, Dad" types of folk. Even though we don't have exact sales figures, the game succeeded enough to warrant special international re-releases geared towards its foreign fan base, expansion packs, and a sequel. Well, how's the game? It's alright. Whenever the player boots up the game, they're shown a splash screen warning them of its contents. After that, they're met with a cacophony of noise and a menu with a shadowy figure standing over a pile of skulls. Starting a new game, the player is met with what can best be described as gore poetry. Essentially, every stage begins with a journal date and a paragraph vividly relishing death and violence. You might think the game's protagonist writes these, but the manual has a series of journal dates that paint a very different story. For every entry in the game that poetically describes scenes of carnage, there's another entry in the manual with the same date written by a desperate and paranoid man.
Blessed are the meek, for they make easy targets.
Worst fears confirmed. Group of lunatics trying to invade my home. Must get to the truck stop. Sheriff, see if anyone can help me. Afraid only God can help me now. You just fucking shout up your neighbors, dude. What the f— It should also be noted that each loading screen is set on a backdrop with disturbing psychedelic art, often depicting a large, shadowy figure. Additionally, lines spoken by the protagonists are recorded by Vince Desi, running as his CEO whenever he's injured. The one line is said in the game by the dude after he kills, recorded by Rick Hunter, and they can be found in the game's files as _demon.
They never liked you. Let's blow something up. See you in hell. Who peed in the pool? Ah, alternative lifestyles. Watch it wiggle.
Beginning the first stage, the player, a man with a raggedy trench coat, is set loose in front of their home and told to eliminate 90% of hostiles. Who are hostiles? Hostiles are armed NPCs, typically law enforcement or concerned locals who open fire on the protagonist. You might be asking yourself, why are they trying to put down a gun-wielding schizophrenic in the streets? To which I ask, huh? After you kill the set number of hostiles, the player is supposed to press F1 to exit the stage. There's no indication, you just have to like smash your keyboard.
What the f am I doing? I just lost all this shit.
The player begins the game with an infinite ammo SMG. The SMG is the game's workhorse weapon, and it deals a moderate amount of damage at medium to close range. A tier. There's also a shotgun. It's fine. It stops you dead in your tracks, and the spread is insane. It's fine. There are also several throwables, including grenades, molotovs, and some other stuff I never use, and you shouldn't use either. It should also be noted that throwables are selected like regular weapons, so it's not the most convenient to use. Grenades travel in a weird arc, but it one-shots enemies. You can only really use it when they're at the perfect distance from you, so C tier. There's also Molotov cocktails. Fire spreads so it can kill multiple people at once, including civilians and yourself. S tier. The automatic shotgun rapidly fires shotgun rounds with significantly less damage, but you can move and strafe while firing, so this would easily make it the best weapon in the game, but you can barely use it because it chews through ammo like a motherfucker. The rocket launcher is, it's exactly what you'd expect. There are regular missiles and homing missiles that work like 80% of the time. It fires slowly and the player has to avoid splash damage, which can be a little tricky with the isometric perspective and terrible camera. B tier. The Vietnam gun is fantastic. A crowd of hostiles, smoke them out, alright? The weapon is a bastion of freedom, and I will establish 20 more McDonald's parking lots, or else. A tier. Lastly, we have the flamethrower. Yes, it chews through ammo quickly, but fire spreads. So you have to click it for about half a second before everyone's lungs are soup and they're begging for their lives. S tier. These Arsenal is fine and dandy, but in practice, combat in Postal is weird. So in the original, W, A, S, and D were used to move the player, like in the modern version. However, whichever direction you move, the dude would aim in that direction, and if you wanted to stop and aim somewhere not in the preset 8 directions, you'd have to stop him and then swivel your mouse side to side to rotate the dude. In practice, the player just ends up standing still and uses the mouse/artillery controls to pick off enemies and stragglers while standing completely still, and only occasionally inches forward to get a health pack or something before repeating the cycle. To compensate for this, the hostile's AI is pretty much non-existent. Every encounter, they just lunge at the dude. Sometimes they zigzag, but all around, they're very stupid. Here's where it gets weird. After 2016 or so, running with the scissors updated the game's controls so that WASD moves a dude, and you can click the mouse in the direction you want the dude to aim. As a result, the dude can fire while strafing, and the enemies can't comprehend side strafing. So yeah, I just cheesed the game by moving side to side in like a figure 8 pattern. The player repeats this multiple times, stumbling through miles of Arizona countryside before reaching a military base. Once the dude clears the base, he's brought to an elementary school. It should be noted that this game came out 18 months before Columbine. The dude tries to open fire on the kids, but it's revealed to be a hallucination, and the dude collapses on the floor. The game then transitions to a haunting cutscene depicting the dude in a mental asylum with distorted and nightmarish imagery to illustrate his suffering. So is the whole thing real? Was it a hallucination? What about the 2 voice actors and the journal entries? Beats me, man. The story's ending is intentionally left somewhat ambiguous because it can't all be real, right? Like some of it can't be real. Like, no person can walk out tomorrow with a single firearm and a dream and wipe out an entire armed city. So there is room to claim that some of it might have been a fantasy or a hallucination from an unreliable narrator. Overall, I award this game 4 suicide animations out of 7, but throw in a 5th honorary one for artistic legacy. While I don't typically like media that's controversial just for the sake of being controversial, this game tackles murder in a surprisingly thoughtful way. Trust me, it could have been way worse. The player's rampage isn't glorified, in fact, it's directly called atrocious. The dude is shown to be both disturbed and frightened, and the spree ends with a whimper with him holed up in a box. I also added in that extra point because it broke taboos in the gaming industry, which allowed for gaming titans like Grand Theft Auto and Saints Row to thrive. If you think Postal was tasteless, that's fine. Just know that it could have been way worse, dude. Oh my god! This game had a very mixed critical reception. On one hand, many news outlets were lambasting the game for being over-the-top obscene. This entry from the Los Angeles Times is my favorite. Tucson, Arizona. The disgruntled raincoat-clad man takes to the street, shotgun in hand. He shoots down police, pedestrians, a marching band, churchgoers. As men and women fall bleeding, the shooter mutters, "Going Postal." This is no crime scene. It is a computer game, Postal, where players can use the main character to shoot, maim, incinerate, and otherwise snuff out innocent bystanders. Also, they made me turn off my ad block to read a 27-year-old article. Go f*** yourself. Postal was estimated to have sold nearly 50,000 copies. Scratch out that original sentence. It no longer exists. I never said that. Postal would graduate to become an over-the-top satirical open-world franchise, and Postal 1 received a complete overhaul in 2016. Postal Redux solves most of my issues with the original, completely remaking every asset, overhauling combat, but there's still some issues that are baked into the game's DNA, take the shitty camera angle. It also includes a rampage mode that rewards points for stylish kills, and it has one of the best soundtracks ever. Oh my god! However, the ending was changed because school shootings became more taboo. The whole idea of the original ending no longer applies anyway. It was supposed to depict something that, at the time, would have been completely unthinkable and out of touch with reality. Tragically, the sad truth is that, in today's world, it is no longer an unthinkable nightmare, but a very depressing reality. That's Postal, a game built around shock value and taboos that have since been broken many times over. It's a fine game. It's free on Steam, but if you're curious, I'd recommend buying Postal Redux. It's $10, and it's compatible with modern consoles like PS4 and the Nintendo Switch and PS5, but PS5 has no games. That'll be all, folks. Thanks for tuning in.